Good morning, guys. I hope you are well. It's me, Mr. Ahmad. I'm bringing you another video on cell specialization. So this is 4.1.1.3. This is broken down into two parts. We're going to look at animals first and plants in the second video. So cell specialization is one of those things where it combines various different things that you need to know, particularly when it comes to the organelles of a cell. Now, what we're going to look at today is cells that are specialized to carry out a particular function. In animals, it's sperm cells, nerve cells, and muscle cells that you need to know, and in plants, you need to know about root hair cells, xylem, and phloem cells. Okay, so in this video, kind of the breakdown of this is that in this video, we're going to look at animal cells, and in the next video, in part 2, you are going to see the plant cells and plant tissues. Now, one thing that I do want to say is please make sure that you follow, subscribe on Instagram, on Facebook, and all of those things, and subscribe to the YouTube channel because it makes it really, really helpful to me to know that something is happening and people are watching this. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I genuinely do. So the question on the screen was, how are cells like footwear? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down and I'm going to give you a very specific example. I want you to think about any type of footwear, whatever you're wearing right now. You might be wearing shoes, you might be sitting at a desk, you might be sitting outside in a classroom, wherever it might be, doesn't matter. Think of footwear. Now, if I ask you, is that footwear appropriate for all situations, you'll probably say no. And in particular, I'm going to focus on a football boot. There's a reason why, because it's got very specific features which help us to understand kind of the link between them. Now, what we're going to say is, in terms of the function of a football boot is to run on grass and kick the ball. At its base level, that's what we are asking a football boot to do, to be comfortable while we're doing that. Now, there are various different features of a football boot that you need to know, or rather, you don't need to know, but there's various different features of a football boot which make it useful for carrying out its function of running on grass and kicking a ball. It's got studs, which means that you have better grip on the grass. Then they're light, so it requires less energy to run in order to lift your feet. They've got a slightly hardened front which protects the feet when you're kicking the ball, and it's got more cushioning, so they're comfortable to run around in for 90 minutes. Now look what I did there. I took the function of the football boot, I took the features of the football boot, and I linked them together. Alright, so how do the features of a particular boot help it to carry out its function? Now, obviously, football boots aren't appropriate for any type of situation. You wouldn't go, I don't know, you wouldn't go to a dinner party in football boots. You wouldn't go to school in football boots. However, the idea behind it is that they perform a specific function, and what we are trying to do is link the features that the football boot has, for example, the studs, the hardened front, in order to help us to relate it to its function. And that's what you're going to have to do when it comes to specialized cells in animals and in plants. Okay, so let's have a look at this. First one that you need to know in animals is sperm cells. So with a sperm cell, the function of a sperm cell is to reach and to fertilize the egg cell. Okay, I'm not going to go into detail in terms of the journey that the sperm needs to make through the female reproductive organs. However, there are a few things that you need to know. So I've highlighted a few of them, and we're going to go through the features first. What features do sperm cells have? It's got a tail. It's got a middle section which is full of mitochondria, which make it really useful because mitochondria is where respiration takes place. It's got acrosomes, which are digestive enzymes, in the front, and it's got a nucleus which carries the genetic material from the father of the offspring. Okay, so far so good. However, clearly we've said it verbally, but we haven't actually linked any of the features to their function. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do, or that's what I'm going to ask you to think about every time we go to a new slide. Now, sperm cell, you've got the features here. The features are, it's got a tail. So why is the tail useful? Well, predominantly the tail allows the sperm cell to swim. Okay, and that is the main. So again, it's about reaching the egg cell. In terms of middle section full of mitochondria, again, that is where respiration takes place. So it releases energy which the sperm can use to reach the egg cell. The acrosome, it contains digestive enzymes. So the front of the sperm cell contains digestive enzymes which break down the outer layer on the egg cell, which allows it to kind of dig its way in and get the nucleus, which is the main bit of a sperm cell, to the nucleus of a egg cell. And then the final one, again, nucleus contains half the DNA for an adult cell. Again, that's why it's actually useful, because it allows it to fertilize the egg cell and form one cell, which will then go through mitosis. Okay, sperm cell features on the board. Now, what sort of exam questions will you see when it comes to sperm cells? Now, there's quite a few exam questions when it comes to sperm cells. Some of them, for example, how do the mitochondria help the sperm cell to carry out its function? Well, they carry out respiration, which releases energy, and that's kind of what you need to say. This is worth 1 mark. So they carry out respiration. Obviously, I've summarized it. I've not written the whole thing, but when you write it as a full sentence. Nucleus of the sperm cell is different from the nucleus of a body cell. Give one way in which the nucleus is different. Now, think back to the notes. It contains half the DNA, and that's what you need to say. So it's only 1 mark, and if you said the nucleus contains half the DNA of a regular body cell, then you get the mark. Fantastic, well done. Describe and explain 2 features of sperm cell that help to carry out its function, and this is worth 4 marks. So in this, what you need to do is have 1 mark, or you get 1 mark for stating the feature, and then 1 mark for stating how it's linked in. So for example, if I was giving a model answer, I would talk about the tail, which allows it to helps the cell to swim, which allows it to reach the egg cell, yeah. And I could talk about, I don't know, the middle section full of mitochondria, which carries out respiration, which again helps it to reach the egg cell. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, stick it in the comments or message on Instagram, and I'll try and clarify. Now, the other cell that you need to know when it comes to animal cells is nerve cells. So you need to know what is the function of a nerve cell. Very simply, is to transmit electrical signals around the body. What does transmit mean? Transmit means send from one place to another. Okay, send from one place to another. Now, what are the features? So if you look at the diagram of the nerve cell, well, I can see it's got very specific features. It's got a cell body. Sorry, that's my phone going off. It's got an axon in the middle, and it's got these weird things here, which are actually insulation for the nerve cell. You don't need to know about that until you get to A level. Okay, so key features of a nerve cell are that it's long, and what that does is it allows it to transmit nerve impulses faster. The reason behind that, if you think about it, if you've got loads of people passing on a message, then it's going to take longer for the message to transmit from one person to another. However, if you've got one person running from one end of the classroom to the other end of the classroom, clearly they're going to do it much faster. Yeah. The axon is insulated, so this is the insulation that I was talking about. It's kind of like if you think about electrical wire, it's got the plastic around the outside. The reason being is it stops, it ensures that electrons, or in this case ions, move in a particular direction. It means that they can't spread out. It means that you don't lose any information as the ions or the electrical charges are moving through. So this means that the transmission transmits nerve impulses faster. So in other words, the signals that you're trying to get from one part of your body to another part of your body move much quicker. The last one that you need to know is it's got branched dendrites. And what that means is, at the end, if you look at here, it's got branched dendrites. In other words, they spread out, and they are picking up their receptors, and they pick up signals that will mean that the nerve impulse in the nerve cell gets fired off, and it connects to whatever it needs to connect to. Okay, so obviously the bigger they are, they cover a larger area, and it means that they can pick up signals, chemical signals, electrical signals, whatever it might be. They can pick up the signals much faster, and therefore, they can pick it up over a large distance, and therefore they can transmit it much faster. Okay. The last one I'm going to talk about is muscle cells. So in muscle cells, skeletal muscle cells, the function of a muscle cell, sorry, it's all going all over the place. Function of a muscle cell, very simply, is to contract and to relax. Okay. Now, what does it need? Well, again, they're very long, and what they do is that it allows them to contract and carry out their function. Lots of mitochondria, and they have lots of mitochondria because it carries out, that's where respiration takes place, and again, that releases energy in order for the muscle to contract and relax. And then finally, it's got a nucleus, which means it can repair and muscle cells can be replaced quite readily. Okay, so boys and girls, very quick overview of the 3 types of cells that you need to know, their functions and their features. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, subscribe, follow, you know all the usuals. Take care, look after yourselves, be safe.